Death was supposed to be silence. But for me, it was anything but. I remember the cold first. A chill that never left, wrapping itself around me like a second skin. Then came the emptiness, the terrible realization that no one could see me. I screamed. I wept. I begged, but the living walked right through me. Eyes vacant, ears deaf. My body was gone, buried beneath damp earth, but my soul remained tethered to the ruins of my family's estate, cursed to wander the corridors of a house that had become nothing but dust and shadows. I thought eternity would pass in loneliness, until he came. The night was wild when Kael arrived. The wind roared through the broken shutters, lightning split the sky in furious strokes, and the earth trembled beneath the weight of an approaching storm. I felt it before I saw him, a presence powerful and burning with life. He pushed the rotting doors open with one shove, his tall frame filling the entrance. The storm howled at his back, but he walked in as if it bowed to him. An Alpha. I knew it instantly. His aura was undeniable, commanding, fierce, threaded with the kind of dominance that made every other creature, living or dead, take notice. He was Kael of the Shadowfang pack, though I hadn't known his name then. All I knew was that he carried the storm in his veins, and then his eyes found me. For the first time since my death, someone saw. His gaze cut through the veil of the unseen and landed on me, wide and sharp, as if I were flesh and bone, standing in the corner. His lips parted, and I braced for the scream I'd heard 100 times from mortals who'd caught only the faintest flicker of my shadow. But Kael didn't scream. Instead, his head tilted, his brows furrowed, and he whispered, "Who are you?" The words crashed into me harder than the thunder outside. My heart, or whatever ghostly echo of it remained, lurched in my chest. No one had spoken to me in years. No one had even looked at me. I tried to retreat into the walls, to melt into the safety of shadows as I always did. But he followed me with his eyes, step by slow step, as though nothing in this ruined place frightened him. His boots crushed the broken glass underfoot, his shoulders brushing against cobwebs that clung like whispers. Still, he moved closer. "You're not supposed to be here," I managed, my voice carrying like a faint wind through the hall. His eyes widened. His ears caught me. His alpha senses heightened beyond human limits allowed him not just to see, but to hear me. "You're real," he breathed, more to himself than to me. I thought it was a scent, a trick. But you're here. Every instinct screamed for me to vanish, but the way he looked at me held me still. There was no fear in his expression, only raw curiosity. And something else. Something dangerously close to longing. Lightning flared, and in that split second I saw more than a man. His pupils burned amber, the beast within flashing in recognition. He wasn't just looking at a ghost. He was looking at his mate. It shouldn't have been possible. Werewolves mated for life, bound by blood and destiny. I was dead or close enough. Whatever tether held me here wasn't life. And yet his Wolf knew me, chose me. I shook my head, a storm of panic rising in me. "No," I whispered. "You can't." But Kael only stepped closer, his hand half extended, his breath unsteady. "You're mine." The words hit me like fire in the cold void I'd lived in for so long. I should have hated them, should have rejected the bond. But instead, my body, my soul ached. For years I had been nothing, empty, forgotten. And now, one word from him made me feel seen, claimed, alive. Outside, the storm raged harder, as if the heavens themselves objected. The walls trembled, and the air grew heavy with a scent that made my blood run cold iron. Smoke, and ancient hunger. Vampires. I knew that scent too well. It was the stench of betrayal, of the night I had died. And if they felt Kael's gift, if they realized he could see what the living could not, they would hunt him. They would tear apart the bond before it had a chance to take root. I wanted to warn him, to scream that his life was in danger just by looking at me. But the words caught in my throat as his eyes lingered on mine, steady and unyielding. "You're not leaving me," he said softly, as if it were already decided. "Not even death can take you from me." And in that moment, the Alpha of Shadowfang declared war on fate itself. I hadn't realized how long I'd been staring at him until I felt the heat of his gaze burn through me. Kael didn't move closer, but his presence pressed against me in a way that made the air between us thick and impossible to ignore. For centuries I had floated unseen, untouchable, invisible, and now, one look from him reminded me that I could still feel. He reached out, just a hand length away, and I flinched, not from fear, but from a sudden, unbearable pull in my chest. My ghostly form shouldn't have reacted to a touch, yet when he extended his hand, I felt the brush of warmth as though my entire being were vibrating in response. "You're not like the others," he murmured. "I've tracked spirits before, hunted them, even spoken to them. But none ever felt like this." I swallowed, unable to speak. The truth was too dangerous, too raw. "I shouldn't exist," I whispered finally. "And if you keep looking at me like that, you'll lose yourself," he asked quietly, completing a thought I couldn't finish. "Perhaps, but I don't care." His words shattered something in me I hadn't known was still alive. Desire? Hope? Loneliness so sharp it carved into my bones? All of it surged together, a tide threatening to sweep me away. I should have turned and fled. I should have hidden in the corners of the house that had become my prison. But I couldn't. Every instinct, every shred of my being, wanted to be near him. Kael took a step forward, ignoring the storm still thrashing outside. "Tell me who you are. Tell me your story." It wasn't the request that startled me. It was the respect in his tone, the lack of judgment, the way he didn't shrink from me as every human had. Slowly, cautiously, I began to speak. I told him about the night I died, betrayed by a vampire who had claimed my loyalty and my love, only to cast me aside. I told him about my family's estate, the loss, the despair, and the endless years spent wandering in silence, unseen and unheard. Kael listened without interruption. His amber eyes never left me. Occasionally, I noticed his jaw tighten, his hand curl as if restraining the wolf within. But there was no fear, no revulsion, just wanting to hold me, to protect me, to claim me. When I finished, I expected silence. Instead, he stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him, close enough that I could imagine what it would feel like to touch him, to feel flesh and bone beneath my fingers. "You're mine," he said again, softer this time, almost reverently. "Not by your death, not by your past, but because you are meant for me. The bond doesn't care if you're dead. It only knows truth. Truth." That word reverberated in me. He was right. I felt it, the connection, unbroken by time, by betrayal, by death itself. And yet, I knew this bond was forbiddance. A ghost and an alpha mate? It was unnatural. Dangerous. Before I could respond, a shadow flickered in the corner of the ruined hall. A faint scent hit my senses iron. Smoke. Blood. My old enemy. The vampire who had ended my life. He was close. Too close. Kael stiffened immediately, wolf instincts snapping into place. His hand went to his neck, fingers brushing the edge of a silver talisman he always wore. "They've found you," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "And if they know you're mine..." I shivered, though not from cold. Then they'll kill you, I whispered. Or worse. No one harms what's mine, he said. The feral edge in his voice sent a thrill down my phantom spine. I'll fight them all if I have to. For a moment I felt almost safe, almost alive. The storm outside seemed to pause, the wind holding its breath as if it too were waiting. Kael and I, bound by something that shouldn't exist, stood in the ruins of my past, two forces tethered together against an unseen world. Yet even in that brief moment of calm, I felt at the danger, the risk, the impossible nature of our connection. I wasn't alive, and he was strong, but mortal in ways that mattered. Every second we lingered near each other, every whispered word, every unspoken look, risked drawing the attention of creatures far older, far deadlier than either of us. And still, I couldn't pull away. He stepped closer. An instinct screamed at me, warning me of the danger of proximity. But desire, longing, the aching loneliness of centuries pressed me forward instead. I imagined his hand brushing mine again. Imagined leaning into him. Imagined the impossible. Warmth, safety, love. I'll protect you, he said, his voice a low promise that shook something deep in me. Even if it kills me, even if it destroys everything around us. You're mine, Alara, and I won't let anyone take you. The words left me breathless. The wind howled through the broken roof. The storm outside echoed the tumult inside me. And in the ruined hall, a ghost and her alpha mate discovered the first dangerous threads of a bond that could change both of their fates forever. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But my heart, if a ghost could still feel heartbeats, screamed the truth. I could no longer deny. I wanted him too, and I had no idea what I was about to risk. The moment I thought I could catch my breath, the world shifted. The shadows in the corners of the ruined estate deepened, curling toward Kael and me like dark fingers. I smelled it before I saw it, the unmistakable metallic tang of blood, the oily stench of death that clung to him like a predator marking its territory. He stiffened, every muscle coiled, wolf instincts blazing through him. They've come for you, he growled, his voice low and dangerous, as if the very walls could hear him and tremble. Vampires. My betrayer. The one who had ended my life. And now, he wanted more than revenge, he wanted control. They know you're here, I said, my voice shaking, though I tried to hide it. And that you can see me. Kael's amber eyes narrowed. If they think they can touch you, they'll regret it. Even as he spoke, the air shimmered. The temperature dropped. Shapes moved through the shadows, pale, lean, silent, eyes glowing crimson. They were fast. Impossibly fast. I had seen their kind before. I had trusted one once. Never again. They've tracked my scent, Kael muttered. His hand went to the hilt of his dagger, but I knew it wasn't enough. Not against them. Not if they came together. I wanted to warn him, to tell him everything I knew about the vampire who had ended my mortal life, the one whose whispers had lingered in my mind for years. But I hesitated. For centuries, I had been powerless. Now, for the first time, I could do something, if only I could summon the courage. Kael's gaze caught mine, sharp and demanding. Whatever it is, tell me. Now, I swallowed. The words burned my throat. It's him, the one who killed me. He's coming. And if he knows we're bonded, Kael's lips pressed into a thin line. He won't survive. The threat, the promise, made something inside me stir, a dangerous, aching desire. Even as fear gripped me, even as my existence was threatened, my heart, or what ghostly echo of it remained, beat faster at the thought of him. The alpha mate who could see me, who could touch me. who wanted me even in death. Then, in the blink of an eye, it happened. A flash of movement, a shadow darker than the night itself. And he was there. My betrayer, the vampire lord I had once loved, who had left me for dead. His eyes burned with recognition and rage. "Alara," he hissed, his voice a rasping whisper that carried centuries of malice. "I should have known you'd linger." Kael's claws slid partially free, catching the moonlight. "Step back," he commanded, his voice resonating with authority I had never heard from a human before. "You'll regret touching her." I wanted to scream, not just because of the danger, but because I remembered how much I had loved this creature once, how much I had trusted him. And now, centuries later, he stood in the ruins of my life, daring to claim me again. "You belong to me," he snarled, advancing. "Even now." Kael's wolf growled, a deep, bone-rattling sound that vibrated through the floorboards. His eyes locked onto mine. "Do you feel that?" he whispered, almost tenderly, though every line of his body radiated danger. "Your blood remembers him, but your soul chose me." I felt it. The pull of our bond, stronger than fear, stronger than death itself. It wrapped around me like a chain I had no desire to break. And in that instant I understood. Our connection wasn't just emotional. It was supernatural. It was life or death. The vampire lunged, and Kael moved like lightning, intercepting him mid-air, claws and fangs flashing in the stormlight. I could see the fear in the vampire's eyes, for the first time fear of the Alpha, who could see what the living could not. Fear of the mate he could never claim. I wanted to reach out, to help, to do something that might turn the tide. But my very existence was a paradox. I was neither living nor dead. Every time I moved toward him, a cold ache tore through Kael, and I could feel my own strength flickering. Loving him, being near him, was dangerous. To him, to me, to both of us. "Stay behind me." Kael barked and I froze. The fight raged around me, a blur of claws and teeth and fury. But I couldn't look away from him. Every movement he made, every growl, every flash of amber in the lightning, he was mesmerizing, dangerous, irresistible. And for the first time since my death, I wanted to feel alive. And then, amidst the chaos, he glanced at me, not the vampire, Kael. His eyes softened, as if pleading, as if he knew the impossible. "I can't lose you," he whispered, almost too quietly for anyone else to hear. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My soul trembled at the sound of his voice. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. I didn't just want him to survive. I wanted him to fight for me, for us. And I would follow him anywhere, even into the jaws of death itself. The vampire hissed again, circling, calculating, sensing the bond that threatened him. And I knew, with a certainty that froze me to the core, that nothing would ever be the same. I was caught between worlds, between past and present, between fear and desire. And Kael, my alpha mate, my protector, my tether to life, was all I had. But even he couldn't prepare me for what was coming. I thought I had known fear. I thought I understood what it meant to teeter between life and death. But nothing prepared me for the moment Kael reached for me. It happened during the Pack's moon ritual. The air was thick with power, ancient and raw, and the world seemed to bend under the Alpha's will. I hovered near the edge of the clearing, watching as Kael stood at the center, the moonlight catching his hair, lighting up the amber fire in his eyes. He was magnificent and terrifying, a force of nature I could neither resist nor escape. And then he called to me. "Come to me, Alara," he said, voice low, resonant, vibrating through the air. through the earth, through me. It was more than a summons. It was a demand and a plea, and a promise all at once. My heart or whatever phantom beat remained fluttered, an ache I could no longer deny though I drifted toward him. Every step a struggle against the instinct to vanish, to hide, to stay safe. But the bond between us, the impossible, forbidden bond, pulled me forward like a tide I could not fight. And when I reached him, everything changed. Kael's hand brushed mine. It shouldn't have happened. I was a ghost. I was not flesh, not blood, not real. And yet, the moment his fingers wrapped around mine, warmth spread through me. Not a cold, spectral warmth, but something alive. Something undeniable. I gasped, not from fear, but from the sudden, overwhelming flood of feeling. My ghostly form shimmered as if charged with energy. And for the first time in centuries, I felt solid, real. Kael's eyes widened, and I saw it there. The shock, the awe, and the pure, unfiltered longing. He drew me closer, and our foreheads touched, breath mingling, and I felt my soul vibrate with the intensity of the bond. I can feel you, he whispered, his voice breaking, trembling. You're alive. Somehow, you're alive. I wanted to answer, to tell him the truth, to revel in the impossible miracle of our connection. But before I could speak, a piercing scream tore through the ritual grounds. A scream that froze the blood in my veins and set every hair on Kael's arms. Standing, the vampire lord. He had tracked us here. Somehow, he had found the ritual before it even began. And he was furious. Kael's eyes narrowed. His wolf shifted, claws extending, fangs glinting in the moonlight. Stay behind me, he ordered, voice hard, commanding, protective. But I didn't want to hide. I couldn't. The bond between us pulled me forward, gave me courage I shouldn't have had. I hovered at his side, shimmering, but present, real, alive in ways I didn't understand. The vampire lunged, moving faster than the eye could follow, and Kael intercepted him, meeting fang with claw in a clash that shook the ground beneath our feet. I gasped as sparks of powerful magic, ancient and potent, flared in the night. And then, he looked at me. The look was enough to melt the centuries of loneliness I had carried. The fear, the danger, the impossibility, all of it disappeared for a moment. His lips were near mine, eyes locked on mine, and I felt the pull of the mate bond stronger than the threat around us. Do you feel it? He murmured. This connection. We can't deny it. I nodded, unable to speak. My ghostly heart ached with longing, with desire, with a terror that what we were doing might destroy us both. And then, he kissed me. It was not gentle, not tentative. It was demanding, claiming, and yet full of a tenderness I had never known. My form shimmered, and I felt the impossible. The warmth of his lips, the press of his chest against mine, the life coursing through him, transferring to me, to my very being. I was alive. In that instant I was. But the miracle came with a cost. Kael staggered backward, his eyes flashing pain. Every heartbeat of mine seemed to pull at his life force, draining him even as it brought me into reality. My joy turned to panic. Kael, I cried, stepping closer, but he waved me back. His hand went to his chest, pressing against his heart. It's too much, he gasped. I can't if this continues. The vampire lord snarled from the shadows, laughing, mocking, feeding off the chaos we had created. Your little ghost mate is going to kill him, he hissed. I realized then, fully and terrifyingly, that our love, our forbidden, impossible, beautiful love, was also a weapon, and a threat, and a curse. Kael forced himself to his feet, amber eyes burning with determination. "We'll find a way," he growled. "We survive. Together. Whatever it takes." But I knew in the core of my soul that nothing would ever be the same. That kiss, that touch, had changed everything. We had crossed a line that could not be undone. And now, the vampire lord, the pack, the ritual, all of it, was caught up in the consequences. I looked into Kael's eyes, seeing both the love and the danger reflected there, and I knew the truth. The storm was only beginning, and whatever came next, we would face it together or fall apart trying. And then the first flash of fangs appeared in the shadows, and I realized the night was far from over. The night was alive with chaos. Thunder rolled across the sky, mixing with the shouts, snarls, and the wet, metallic scent of blood. Kael fought like a force of nature, a storm incarnate, but even his strength, his perfect, alpha strength, was being tested beyond limits. And I was at the center of it all, tethered to him in a way that made every second feel like both salvation and doom. I could see the vampire lord now, circling us with eyes like twin red moons, fangs glinting in the stormlight. Every inch of him radiated menace, centuries of cruelty packed into one merciless being. He lunged at Kael and I screamed, instinctively rushing forward. But the moment I crossed that invisible threshold, I felt it. My presence, my life, my love for him, it was draining him, pulling at him, making him weaker, even as it made me more alive. "Stop," I cried, my voice barely audible over the storm. "Kael, you can't. I won't let you go," he roared, deflecting a strike from the vampire with a slash of his claws that sent sparks flying into the rain-soaked ground. "I won't. Not now, not ever." The words hit me in a way nothing else could. He would fight to his last breath for me. And yet, I could feel it. My very being, my existence in this half-world was slowly killing him. Every heartbeat I took, every touch, every pulse of our bond was draining his life force. I staggered backward, fear and guilt twisting inside me like knives. I can't be the one to... Kael turned to me mid-fight, amber eyes blazing, face streaked with rain and blood. "Alara, look at me," he bellowed. "I chose this. I chose you, no matter the cost." Tears blurred my vision. I had never felt love so raw, so consuming, so impossible. And I realized then the truth that terrified me. To love him fully meant to hurt him, to possibly destroy him. And yet to pull away meant losing him forever. There was no right choice, only sacrifice. The vampire lord laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that echoed across the ruins. "You're tearing him apart," he spat, fangs dripping with malice. "Do you think your little ghostly tricks can claim him? He belongs to me." Kael's claws slashed in answer, and he roared half-human, half-wolf, all fury. But I couldn't move. I couldn't bear the thought of being the instrument of his death. My chest ached, my form flickered with the strain, and I felt my soul stretch thin between worlds. Then, without thinking, without warning, I reached for him. Not just with my hand, but with every ounce of my being. I poured into him all I could: love, trust, courage, and forced the bond to its limit. I shared my life with him, not just drawing from him, but giving back what I could. He gasped, staggering, eyes wide with shock. The storm seemed to pause, wind holding its breath. "Alara," he whispered, voice raw, desperate. "No, don't." But it was too late. The bond flared brighter than the moon, brighter than lightning. The vampire lord shrieked, caught in the surge of power, neither he nor the storm could contain. Kael and I were two halves of one force, unbreakable, unstoppable, terrifying. And then, in a flash of pure, impossible brilliance, the vampire was hurled back, vanishing into the shadows, his scream swallowed by the night. For a moment, everything went silent. The storm eased, the ruins were still, and Kael fell to his knees, trembling, breathing ragged, soaked in blood and rain. I hovered above him, hands pressed against his chest, feeling his heart, his life, his essence. I'm alive, he whispered, voice weak, almost broken. You didn't. I almost killed you, I admitted, voice trembling. By being Emmy. Kael looked up at me, eyes burning with a feral tenderness. You didn't almost kill me, he said, voice firm despite weakness. You saved us. You saved me. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. It shouldn't have happened. This bond, we shouldn't. He cupped my ghostly face with one hand, pressing his thumb to my cheek as if grounding me in reality. We don't get to choose what's forbidden, Clara, he said softly. We only get to choose each other. The weight of it hit me then. All the danger, all the impossible odds, all the centuries of isolation. It had led me here, to him, and him to me. The world might be against us. Death might be against us. Even the supernatural itself might demand we fail. But right now, in this ruined clearing, drenched in storm and blood, we were alive. Together, and yet, even as relief washed over me, I couldn't ignore the pain in his eyes, the faint flicker of weakness that lingered. The cost of this moment, the cost of our love, was still real. The fight was over, yes, but nothing about our lives or our bond would ever be simple again. Kael pulled me closer, trembling but determined, and whispered against my hair, "Whatever comes next, we face it as one. I don't care if the world burns around us, I choose you." I closed my eyes, letting myself be held, letting the storm of fear and desire and relief wash over me. And I knew, in that quiet, fragile moment after the climax of our fight, that we were irrevocably bound. The vampire lord may have retreated, but the war was far from over. And the bond between a ghost and her alpha mate, once hidden, impossible, forbidden, had now become the center of everything. Whatever came next, I wouldn't run. Not from danger. Not from him. Not from love. Dawn never felt so alive. The first streaks of sunlight pierced the storm clouds, casting gold across the ruins of the estate and illuminating the destruction left behind. The air was thick with silence, now a quiet that carried both relief and loss. Kael and I stood among the shattered remnants of a battle that had tested everything: our courage, our bond, our very existence. For a long moment we didn't speak. He held me close, careful, protective, as though even after all the chaos, I could still slip through his fingers. I allowed myself to be held, to feel the warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart, and for the first time in centuries, I felt whole. "You're really here," he said, voice rough, almost trembling. "Alive, not just a ghost, not just a shadow. You're real." I let out a shaky laugh, one part disbelief, one part relief. I didn't know if I could be. I didn't know if being with you would destroy you. He shook his head, amber eyes locking onto mine. "No, you didn't destroy me. You saved me. You always have." I stared at him, seeing the truth etched in every line of his face, the weariness, the scars, the unwavering devotion. The bond we had forged in the storm, in danger, in impossible circumstances, had changed us both. I realized that being tethered to him, as dangerous as it had brought me fully back to life. Not just as a spirit lingering between worlds, but as someone capable of love, of choice, of living again. The vampire lord was gone. I didn't know if he would ever return, but it didn't matter. His threat, as terrifying as it had been defeated not by strength alone, but by the connection between Kael and me. Our love had been our weapon. Our bond had been the shield. And in that truth, I felt a quiet triumph. Kael leaned his forehead against mine, and I felt the pull of our mate bond settle, strong and unbroken. "You're mine, Alara," he whispered. "And I'm yours. Forever." I nodded, letting tears slip freely this time, not from fear, but from the overwhelming intensity of the moment. "Forever," I echoed. Even in victory, I knew life, or whatever came next, would not be easy. Our bond was still forbiddance, still a marvel that defied the natural order. But now we had survived the impossible together. And surviving together changed everything. It meant we could face whatever came, as one. For the first time, I noticed the changes in myself. My form no longer flickered with uncertainty. I could move freely between the worlds, alive and ghostly at once, tethered to him yet not consuming him. I had become something new, a bridge between life and death, between spirit and flesh, a being shaped by love, courage, and sacrifice. Kael brushed a strand of wet hair from my face, his touch gentle, grounding me in the reality we had fought so hard to claim. "You've changed me," he said softly, eyes shimmering. "Not just by surviving, but by being. You. By being mine." I smiled, feeling the warmth spread through me in ways I had long forgotten. "And you've changed me, Kael. You gave me a chance to exist, to be seen, to be loved. Even when it was impossible, you never let go." The sun rose higher, illuminating the ruins, and in that light, I realized something that had been clear all along. Love, when true and relentless, could defy death, defy danger, defy every rule of the world. Our bond had been forbidden, yes, but it had also been inevitable. Kael pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, and I closed my eyes, savoring the moment, the connection, the triumph. In that instant, nothing else mattered. Not the vampires, not the storm, not the centuries of loneliness or betrayal. Only him. Only us. We would rebuild, we would heal, and we would live on the edge of worlds together. Partners, lovers, mates. Our story was no longer a tale of fear or loss, but of survival, of devotion, and of a love so powerful it could not be denied by life, death, or destiny itself. As we walked through the ruins, hand in hand, I felt the wind brush against us, carrying the scent of rain and earth and life itself. The world was waking, and so were we, reborn from chaos, bonded in ways the living could not understand. I looked at Kael, feeling the weight and the joy of what we had endured. "Do you ever wonder," I asked quietly, "if this was always meant to happen?" He smiled, amber eyes full of both mischief and certainty. "I don't wonder. I know. You were always mine, Alara, and I was always yours." I took a deep breath, letting the morning sun fill me with hope. The impossible had happened. The forbiddance had been claimed. And our love, forged in storms and shadows, would endure. Because some bonds aren't meant to be broken. Some love isn't meant to die. And some souls, no matter the worlds they inhabit, are destined to find each other, against all odds, forever.